All about power. This opinion discusses workplace harassment, its link to power structures. Sexual harassment is not about sex, it is about power. This opening statement in the recent Supreme Court decision in the Muhammad Din versus Dr. Sidra Zafar case, authored by Justice Mansour Ali Shah, sets the tone for a significant legal precedent on workplace harassment. Sets the tone means establishes the main idea. Authored means written by. Legal precedent means a ruling that guides future cases. This sentence says harassment is about control, not attraction, starting an important court decision. The case involved a woman doctor who had registered a harassment complaint with the ombudsperson against a driver under the Protection Against Harassment of Women at the Workplace Act, 2010, leading to consequences for the driver. Registered a harassment complaint means officially reported bad behavior. Ombudsperson means someone who checks complaints. Consequences means results like punishment. This sentence says a doctor reported a driver for harassment using a 2010 law, and he faced trouble. The petitioner had engaged in persistent misconduct, including verbal abuse, spreading false allegations, and unlawfully recording a medical procedure. Petitioner means the person appealing in court. Persistent misconduct means ongoing bad actions. Verbal abuse means rude words. False allegations means lies to hurt someone. Unlawfully recording means filming without permission. This sentence says the driver kept doing wrong things like insulting, lying, and illegally recording. Despite several warnings and a transfer order, he refused to comply with the latter. Refused to comply means didn't follow. Transfer order means instruction to move jobs. This sentence says he ignored warnings and didn't move when told to. Following an inquiry, which substantiated the allegations against him, the ombudsperson imposed compulsory retirement as a punishment. His appeals before the Punjab governor and the Lahore High Court were dismissed, leading to the Supreme Court petition. The Apex Court, too, dismissed the appeal. Inquiry means investigation. Substantiated means proved true. Compulsory retirement means forced to stop working. Appeals were dismissed means requests to change the decision were rejected. Apex Court means highest court. This sentence says an investigation proved him guilty. He was forced to retire, and all his appeals failed, even at the top court. The judgment does not simply set a legal precedent. It also highlights the structural challenges that women in Pakistan face routinely in professional environments. Structural challenges means big system problems. Routinely means all the time. This sentence says the ruling shows big everyday problems women face at work in Pakistan, not just one case. Despite the hierarchical reversal in this case, power still operates along gendered lines, reinforcing societal norms that police, subjugate, and erase women's authority. Hierarchical reversal means flipped rank order. Gendered lines means based on male-female roles. Police means watch and control. Subjugate means put down. Erase means remove. This sentence says even though the doctor had a higher job, male power still controlled and weakened her role. The judgment underscores that harassment is rarely about desire. In fact, it is a mechanism of control, which has been designed to delegitimize the presence of women in traditionally male-dominated spaces, as Dr. Zafar's ordeal exemplifies. Underscores means stresses. Mechanism of control means way to hold power. Delegitimize means make seem wrong. Male-dominated spaces means places men usually run. Ordeal means tough time. This sentence says the ruling shows harassment is about power, not wanting someone to push women like Dr. Zafar out of men's areas. This was not an isolated case of transgression, but part of a broader cultural pattern that sanctions the surveillance and moral policing of women in authority in the country. Isolated case means single event, transgression means bad act, cultural pattern means common behavior, sanctions means allows, surveillance means watching, moral policing means judging right and wrong. This sentence says this wasn't just one problem, but part of how society lets people watch and judge women leaders. The petitioner's defiance of a formal transfer order and obstruction of essential resources illustrate how even those with seemingly lower institutional power can weaponize gendered structures to resist women's professional autonomy. Defiance means not obeying. Obstruction means blocking. Essential resources means needed tools. Weaponize means use as a weapon. Gendered structures means male-female power setup. Autonomy means independence. This sentence says the driver's refusal and blocking stuff show how even lower workers use male advantage to fight women's freedom at work. The case shows how women's authority is often perceived as negotiable, precarious, and undeserving of respect. Perceived means seen as, negotiable means can be argued. Precarious means shaky. Undeserving means not worthy. This sentence says people see the women's leadership as weak and not worth respecting. Women's safety in professional spaces should not hinge on sporadic judicial interventions. Hinge on means depend on. Sporadic means not often. Judicial interventions means court actions. This sentence says women's safety at work shouldn't rely on rare court help. The judgment also references amendments to the Protection Against Harassment of Women at the Workplace Act in 2022. References means mentions, amendments means changes. This sentence says the ruling talks about 2022 law updates. These amendments, championed by the then Human Rights Minister Shireen Mazari in response to demands from the #MeToo movement, extended legal protections to informal sector workers, freelancers, and domestic employees. Championed means strongly supported. Extended means stretched out. Informal sector means non-office jobs. Freelancers means self-employed. Domestic employees means houseworkers. This sentence says Mazari pushed changes from #MeToo to protect more workers like maids and freelancers. The definition of workplace was also broadened to include educational institutions, spaces of concerts, performance venues, courts, highways, sports facilities, and gyms. Broadened means made wider. Institutions means schools. This sentence says workplace now means more places like schools and gyms. A notable case from the movement involved a victim, a celebrity in fact, whose complaint was rejected by the ombudsperson on technical grounds, stating that there was no employer-employee relationship between the complainant and the respondent. Notable means important. Technical grounds means small rule problems. Complainant means person complaining. Respondent means person accused. This sentence says a famous victim's case was thrown out because they didn't work together. The 2022 amendments directly address this loophole, ensuring broader legal coverage for victims of workplace harassment. Loophole means gap in rules. Coverage means protection. This sentence says the 2022 changes fix this gap to help more victims. Furthermore, the amendments recognize what feminists have argued for long, that harassment goes beyond overt sexual advances and includes acts that exert power and control, as well as gender-based discrimination that creates hostile workplaces for women. Recognize means accept. Overt means obvious. Exert means use. Discrimination means unfair treatment. Hostile means unfriendly. This sentence says the law now sees harassment as power and bias, not just clear sex moves making work tough. The introduction of legal clarity on hostile work environments acknowledges that character defamation, reputational sabotage, and professional isolation are insidious forms of gendered violence. Clarity means clear rules. Defamation means reputation harm. Sabotage means ruining. Isolation means being left out. Insidious means sneaky. This sentence says new rules call out sneaky attacks like lies and loneliness as violence against women. Sadly, while legal frameworks have expanded, the enforcement of laws remains weak. Frameworks means law systems. Enforcement means making rules work. This sentence says laws grew, but they're not used well. The judgment in question acknowledges that women who report harassment face institutional indifference, retaliatory backlash, and social ostracization. In question means this case. Indifference means not caring. Retaliatory backlash means payback. Ostracization means being left out. This sentence says the ruling admits women who speak up get ignored, punished, or shunned. True, the ruling in favor of Dr. Zafar is a step forward, but systemic change will require a cultural shift in workplace environments that continue to tolerate, excuse, or downplay harassment. Step forward means progress. Systemic means whole system. Cultural shift means big attitude change. Tolerate means allow. This sentence says Dr. Zafar's win helps, but real change needs workplaces to stop accepting harassment. Our justice system must also confront its past role in perpetuating gendered hierarchies. Confront means face. Perpetuating means keeping going. Gendered hierarchies means male over female order. This sentence says courts need to admit they've kept men above women. Legal procedures do not always act as avenues for redress. Often they function as instruments of attrition against survivors. Avenues for redress means ways to fix things. Instruments of attrition means tools to wear out. This sentence says legal steps can tire out victims instead of helping. The fact that this case had to navigate multiple legal layers over several years underlines the skepticism towards women's testimonies. Navigate means go through. Legal layers means court levels. Skepticism means doubt. Testimonies means statements. This sentence says years of court fights show people don't trust women's words. Many harassment cases never even see the light of day. See the light of day means get solved or known. This sentence says most harassment cases stay hidden. Pakistan's first #MeToo case, filed in 2018, remains entangled in the court system. Entangled means stuck. This sentence says the first big case from 2018 is still not solved. Dr. Zafar, too, had to defend her position in front of multiple judicial bodies since 2019. Defend her position means fight for her side. Judicial bodies means courts. This sentence says Dr. Zafar battled in courts for years since 2019. For decades, women's rights activists have called for shifting the burden of scrutiny from victims to perpetrators and the institutions that enable them. Shifting means moving. Burden of scrutiny means who's checked. Perpetrators means wrongdoers. Enable means help. This sentence says activists want to focus on bad guys and systems, not victims. Legal redress should not be reactive. It should be proactive. Redress means fixing. Reactive means after. Proactive means before. This sentence says laws should stop harassment, not just fix it later. It should not have to take years of litigation and perseverance for a woman to establish that she will not compromise on her professional dignity. Litigation means court fights. Perseverance means keep going. Compromise means give up. Dignity means respect. This sentence says women shouldn't need years to prove they deserve work respect. The ruling should not be seen as a transformative shift. If anything, it is an exception in a landscape where workplace harassment remains rampant and without consequences for the perpetrators. Transformative shift means big change. Exception means rare case. Rampant means everywhere. Consequences means punishment. This sentence says this win isn't a game changer. It's rare when harassment is common and unpunished. If we have to transition from isolated legal victories to systemic accountability, the government and its institutions will have to enforce the law rigorously. Transition means move. Isolated means alone. Systemic accountability means full justice. Rigorously means strictly. This sentence says for real justice, the government must strongly use laws. Amendments alone cannot change workplace cultures unless independent and robust inquiry committees, free from the power dynamics that shield perpetrators, are created. Robust means strong. Inquiry committees means groups checking facts. Power dynamics means unfair influences. Shield means protect. This sentence says law changes need strong, fair groups to fix work culture. Moreover, a societal reframing of women's leadership is needed, one that does not treat women's authority as contingent upon male validation. Reframing means rethinking. Contingent upon means depending on. Validation means approval. This sentence says society must see women's power as real, not needing men's okay. Institutions must move beyond performative compliance and integrate gender-sensitive training across workplaces. Performative compliance means fake following. Integrate means add. Gender-sensitive means aware of male-female issues. This sentence says workplaces need real training, not just pretending to follow rules. The ruling in Mohammed Din versus Dr. Sidra Zafar is both a legal milestone and a sobering reminder of the struggle against workplace harassment. Milestone means big step, sobering means serious. This sentence says the win is important, but shows the fight isn't over. It underscores the urgency of dismantling the structures that normalize, indeed facilitate, gender-based harassment in the workplace. Urgency means need now, dismantling means breaking down. Normalize means make okay, facilitate means help. This sentence says we must quickly end systems that allow harassment. Legal frameworks, no matter how well-intentioned, will not be effective without cultural transformation that affirms women's right to work with dignity and without fear. Well-intentioned means good goals. Effective means working. Cultural transformation means big society change. Affirms means supports. This sentence says good laws need a culture shift to protect women's work rights. Women's safety in professional spaces should not hinge on sporadic judicial interventions. Hinge on means depend on. Sporadic means rare. Judicial interventions means court help. This sentence says safety shouldn't wait for occasional court fixes. It must be a fundamental, non-negotiable standard. Fundamental means basic, non-negotiable means no arguing. This sentence says safety must be a must-have rule. Entrenched patriarchal structures that sustain workplace harassment will have to be dismantled to allow women to navigate professional spaces without the threat of personal and professional annihilation constantly dangling over them. Entrenched means deep-rooted, patriarchal means male-led, sustain means keep going, navigate means move through, annihilation means destruction, dangling means hanging. This sentence says old male systems must end so women aren't always at risk of ruin. The question is, how many more cases like the one under discussion must emerge before society acknowledges that workplace harassment is not an anomaly, but an institutionalized mechanism of control? Emerge means come up. Acknowledges means admits. Anomaly means rare thing. Institutionalized means built in. Mechanism means tool. This sentence asks when society will see harassment as a normal control trick, not a one-off. The writer is a lawyer and the executive director of the Digital Rights Foundation, X, at Nighat Dad. Published in Dawn, March 1st, 2025.